Hello, Gene the OK Boomer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Today, I can't really decide. I was going to call it, I went with liberal insanity update, but it could also be liberal totalitarianism update, because what I'm going to share with everybody today shows, at least for some Democrats, he's a Democrat and very liberal, very radical actually. His name is Christopher M. Rabb. He is a state representative in Pennsylvania. And this is going to show you how, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to read the whole memo, but I linked to it so you can read it for yourself again if you want to, because it really is astounding. And note the jargon, the liberal jargon. Well, you're probably already cisgender. I'm sure you've heard of that before. That's somebody who's born male or female, because of course after you're born one or the other, then you can change if you want. Just say, well, I have the chromosomes of a male, but I'm actually a female. And a new term I have never seen before, inseminators. So, remember the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. So this is an inseminator, but it's not the same thing, as you'll see in a moment. So here we go. Here's the memo from Christopher M. Rabb. For far too long, the public debate around abortion, contraception, and related reproductive matters has thrust government into the center of restrictions on the bodily autonomy of women and girls. So, he doesn't use cisgender. I'll just note that right away. Women let's not go there today. Okay, let me continue with the memo. Otherwise, I'll be off track for the rest of the day probably. Rarely is there a meaningful dialogue around public policy focusing on the personal responsibility of cisgender men in this sphere. The rights of cisgender men have always been paramount in our society, with little focus on their responsibility as inseminators, there's that term, as inseminators to change their behaviors for the good of their partners, families, and society at large, which, as you'll see in a moment, well, I'm not going to give it away. Let's go on here. As we head toward climax, I don't know if this is a pun intended or not intended, as you'll see in a moment, but interesting choice of term there. As we head toward climax on this heated discourse around this delicate matter, we should come together to address it with surgical precision. Okay, I think he is trying to be a little snarky and funny there, as you'll see in a moment. So probably the climax also. We must also commit to mending the social fabric being sliced up by bitter acrimony. Okay, definitely for a liberal, this is humor, I guess. Yeah. If you're wondering what I mean by all that, you'll see in a moment. In order to improve public health outcomes and release sweet justice into our households and bedrooms, we must wrap our love of individual liberty in the moral imperative of greater personal responsibility and acknowledge men's essential role in procreation. So I don't know, men's essential role. What about, so that would be men who say they're women, and what about women who say they're men? Their role would seem to be a little bit different than a cisgender male than his would be. But his, her, it's, zir, whatever, I guess you get to pick your pronoun. You can see how ridiculous this is. And there's more, as you'll see, more little humor there. Release, sweet justice, wrap our love. That's well, you see in a moment here. I think he's being funny there. Here's the what they call the money quotes. These two paragraphs, which are also sentences. Therefore, I will be introducing legislation that will require all inseminators to undergo vasectomies within 6 weeks from having their third child or 40th birthday, whichever comes first. Further, this legislation will allow Pennsylvanians to take civil action for unwanted pregnancies against inseminators who wrongfully conceive a child with them. This legislation will also empower Pennsylvanians to enforce this new law by offering a $10,000 reward for reporting to the proper authorities those scofflaws who have not complied with this statute within the allotted time frame. As long as state legislatures continue to restrict the reproductive rights of cis women, trans men, and non-binary people, there should be laws that address the responsibility of men who impregnate them. I guess this would be cisgender men, but who knows? I'm frankly a little confused, well, very confused at this point. Thus, my bill will also codify, quote, wrongful conception, unquote, to include when a person has demonstrated negligence toward preventing conception during intercourse. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. In the spirit of this popular axiom, I encourage my colleagues to take a gander at this. So another little joke for a liberal Democrat, I guess. In the spirit of this popular axiom, I encourage my colleagues to take a gander at this forthcoming bill that seeks to end this egregiously gendered double standard for the benefit of all individuals, our families, and our great Commonwealth. So, in other words, I guess it's like China's one-child law, but I guess in Pennsylvania, this Democrat is going to be very generous and allow 3 children. And, well, my first question is, what happened to my body, my choice? My body, my choice. So I don't see any choice here on whether, I don't see the choice in forcible forced vasectomies. I see a little hypocrisy there. Just stack that up with all the other hypocrisy that we see from the left. I could spend all day several days on a number of vlogs on just liberal hypocrisy. But anyways, so I guess no body, my choice if you're a cis male. But also, he talks about the inseminators, but what about this is my term now, the insemnities, women. So we have this bill would also codify, quote, wrongful conception, unquote, to include when a person has demonstrated negligence toward preventing conception during intercourse. So that could be the woman or the cis gender woman or whatever. As I said, I'm getting confused. I'm not sure what terms the liberals think would apply here, but they sometimes do not, they're often the ones not responsible for proper contraception. Anyways, let me just backtrack a little bit. So you see all these jokes about wrapping, well, that would be, wrapping your business up with a condom and, slicing and all these things that's a vasectomy. So you can read this again and get all this humor now that this liberal humor now that you've seen the whole thing. But getting back to the inseminities, there are cases of women deliberately getting pregnant, taking a condom and punching a hole through it with a pin, putting a hole in it to one of the most egregious examples would be a woman getting pregnant by a wealthy man, and the idea is then you get pregnant, you have the baby, and you force this rich person to take care of the baby. forever, or just wants to have a baby and the father is not interested, so you punch a hole in the old condom there, or say you're taking birth control pills when you're not. That's another easy way. But where's is there a $10,000 reward for reporting women who do that? But you see how ridiculous this is. I thought it was a satire. I mentioned the Babylon Bee before, the babylonbee.com. I'll put the caption up there. It's a satire site, and this is the kind of thing that I would expect from them as a joke, but this is a state representative. He's obviously serious, and it shows how crazy they are, number one, but also how totalitarian liberals are. I mean, never mind forcing people to get vaccinated or lose your job and your future or whatever. Now they want to force you, they want to check, I guess if you have a child is born, and then you check with the hospital has to report every birth, I guess, or you go through the birth certificate to find out when the birth occurred, and then check how many children were born by that father, and with whether the person got a vasectomy within 6 weeks. The whole thing is ridiculous, but that's the left. That is what the Democratic Party is becoming. So that's the only hopeful sign that I get from all this, is that Republicans should do very well in the upcoming election, and hopefully all elections going forward, because it's just, we have two parties in this country, but they are not. Margaret Thatcher talked about this before. She said, I mentioned it also in an earlier vlog, comparing American politics to British politics. He said, well, in American politics you have two parties that are basically on the same page as far as the kind of government we have, and just disagree over policy and how big government should be. But in England, there's two parties, but one is a capitalist, free party, and the other one is socialist. Well, we're starting to go that way in this country, and it's getting to the point, based on this, that we may have a difference, a dichotomy, where we have two parties where one party is sane and the other party is insane. So I'll just end with my disclaimer. I should have said it earlier. I'm a conservative. Always keep that in mind when you evaluate whatever I say. And that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate the time that you spend with me. If you could spend a little more time, and if you have any comments, questions, suggestions for future topics, you can put that below the video. You could subscribe. I love getting new subscribers. You could share this video with anybody you think would like it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.